Good afternoon, Powerful Parent Club. It's Dr. Jason Levine back in the seat here. Gonna keep things moving. And if you're here, you're live, you're watching. Thanks for tuning in. We give us a little wave hi, say hello. If you have a thought or a comment or a question, let us know, because we are really excited to have Janelle Kent joining us today, and she is a sleep expert. And is going to shed some light on the work that she's been doing. And I know as a parent, we all, especially in the middle of a global pandemic, we all need some help with how to get sleep. And as a doctor of physical therapy, I have seen how important sleep can be on the recovery process for parents and athletes and everyone alike. Parents are athletes, in my opinion. So if you pop in, let us know. If you're watching on the replay and you see it later, feel free to drop in a comment or a question. And we can respond to it later on when we get to it. So without further delay, I'm going to bring on Janelle. Janelle, welcome.
Hello. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day. I know you've got kids too, so finding time to share your insights with others isn't an easy thing to do in the middle of the day.
It's not too bad. Mine are all at school right now, so.
It's wonderful, because and you're coming from Canada, which is, you guys have this all. I know. It's we got a holy moly 150. This is 150th session that we've done. So someone popped in. I don't know who it is. I can't see the names on here, but yeah, congratulations. You're the 150th session leader. This is exciting.
Yay!
Janelle, so yeah, you're in Canada where things are slightly more under control than where we are right now. Luckily,
moderately, hey?
Fingers crossed for everyone out there that it keeps getting better. But yeah, fill us in what you've been doing, a little bit of your background, and we can start talking. So whoever's here, if you have a sleep question, post it in the comment section, and we will add it into the list of things to talk about.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm really glad to be here. Glad that my little ones are at school and I won't have anybody sneak in, because that's usually what happens when I go live. But just a brief rundown, my name is Janelle Kent. I am a certified infant and child sleep consultant. So that's like a sleep coach. And essentially what I do is work with parents to help you get your little ones sleeping well, because if they sleep well, you sleep well. And that is never more important than it is right now, when so many of us are having to work from home and we need our little ones to nap when we need them to nap so we can get things done. We need them to sleep through the night so that we can be rested and tackle all of the things that come up in our day. So I do a lot of one-on-one work, but what I'm doing now is shifting, as most people are doing right now. The world is a very different place today than it was a year ago. And so what I have set up is a sleep group on Facebook, because that's where most of us can be found these days. And what I do is I've got all kinds of parents from all over the world there, and I'm there to support and give information. I go live every week on Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Mountain Time and talk about different sleep topics and help out. So, that's generally what I'm up to. I do have 3 of my own little girls, 6, and then the twins are 4.5. So I, am very busy. They all sleep well, but things happen. Right? Things happen though. Good sleepers challenge things, as kids do. As a parent, you'll know nothing is ever just easy, smooth sailing for very long before they throw us another curveball. So
some are better than others, right? Like I feel like there's definitely the spectrum that I'm sure some people are dealing with.
Definitely, it varies so widely.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what I want to talk to you guys about today, I want to give you kind of like a rundown, because I know being at home with your kids, making sure everybody's getting the sleep that they need to, not just make it through the day, but like thrive throughout the day and be that, that competent grown up that you can be, to be the, compassionate parent that you want to be all the time, but sometimes is challenging when you're running on little sleep. I want to talk to you guys about it's what I call my 4-step assessment process. And I'm going to be talking about this next week in my sleep group. I've got a big sleep workshop coming. So what I'm going to do today is give you the bare bones of this sleep workshop in as condensed format as possible to kind of give you guys a bit of an idea what it's all about and how it can help you. So,
Great.
you know, before our little ones can sleep well and before we can sleep well and function at our best, we have to know why their sleep is breaking down. We have to know why they're having problems. And we can guess, and we can say, I think this is what it is, but it's really best to come at it with a methodical approach so that you can sort it all out and not spend a bunch of time guessing.
I connect with that pretty well. It's because it's similar from the PT perspective, where it's like, okay, there's a million different exercises out there that I could tell someone to do, but usually if you can focus in on the important things, it's like 1 or 2 or sometimes 3 exercises that someone can really focus in on. It's going to make the biggest change. It's kind of the whole analogy of sharpening your axe before going and trying down to chop a tree. Yeah, it's important to have the right tools. So focusing
Definitely.
in on that is super important.
And it's so much better to have a good approach moving in as opposed to just going in and guessing, because we waste too much time, and time is something that we parents don't have enough of, right?
None.
There's no time to do the basic things that we need to do, right?
Negative time.
Yeah. So my 4-step assessment process. Okay, I'm going to give you them tool by tool. So the first tool is to take a look at your sleep basics. Now, this is stuff that you can find online. I'm not bringing anything revolutionary to you. So you've probably heard of a lot of the stuff that I'm going to mention right this minute, but you want to take a look at your sleep environment because it really needs to be conducive for them to sleep. So you want to look at their temperature. And I did the what's the word I'm looking for? We do everything in Celsius in Canada. So I converted everything for you. So temperature should be between 62 and 63 degrees Fahrenheit to about 69, 70 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay.
Now, a lot cooler than you're expecting, right?
Yeah.
So even as adults, the cooler the room is, the better your body will rest. The deeper sleep you can get into. Like, I don't know if you've ever had those, hot summer nights. We get them up here in Alberta, and it'll be so hot, and we don't have air conditioning out here near Calgary because it's usually cold at night. But when you get those really hot nights and then you wake up hot and sweaty like that, it makes for a poor night's sleep.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like normally we go for like a 68 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yep.
In our house, but the question the kids, right, our 10-month-old or 11-month, she's already 11 months old, is she doesn't have a blanket, right? So and so there's a little bit of a difference there when you're thinking about, okay, how do we set it up for the whole house versus just her, and then making sure it works for everybody, and then we can all get a good night's sleep.
Yeah, we tend to, as parents, take one for the team, right?
Oh yeah.
The good thing when they're that young, sometimes you can help bridge the gap with a good sleep sack, extra layers, but that will even be individual based on your little one, right? I've got twins, and I've got one who, they're 4.5 now, but it's always been this way. One that needs to have like blanket up to her face and cuddled in, and then the other one sleeps with this tiny little like threadbare cotton muslin blanket, and her feet are out and her arms are all over the place because she runs hot. So you need to really, like you said, take that into consideration. What's going to work for your family and what's going to work for each of your little ones if you've got more than one hanging around, right?
Oh yeah, we play around with that. It is similar. My older daughter she'll like sleep totally basically naked, like she'll just have underwear on and be like, cool, I'm good, this is great. And the same thing, we got the sleep sack, which has been super helpful, and to regulate the temperature a little bit. But it's definitely that's an important thing that a lot of folks probably haven't taken time to think about in terms of, okay, and when you're setting your environment up, that's all pretty important.
Yes, you don't want to overlook the temperature, and then you also want to make sure that it's really dark. like really dark, especially when you start out when they're really young. I know in the toddler years, it can get a bit tricky because they have the fears, they have bad dreams, and those are all very real. We know there are no monsters,
Yeah.
but they don't. And for them, that's very real. So, but when they're young and for as long as possible, keep it dark. Like I'm talking, cover your windows in, blanket or towel, or you can buy fancy on stuff that blacks out, and then black out your curtains too, so that there's no light coming through. That really helps helps them produce melatonin and helps with their circadian rhythm. So anything that you can do in the early days, I know 0 to 3 months, they're not producing melatonin yet. So it's important, but they're important cues. Dark means sleep time. Light means now we're up and ready to go. And those are all important cues for their bodies.
That's around 3 months is already when that's happening, or it's
between 2 and 3 months. It'll depend on the baby, but around 2-3 months, they'll start to develop melatonin. But I would, like when you've got a newborn, that newborn has been in utero, it's dark and it's loud. So don't bring baby to a house that's bright and quiet, because that's not what you're used to. And that leads to the next point. Make sure you're using white noise too. Now be careful of what white noise you use. You don't want it so loud that it's damaging ears. And there's all kinds of fancy apps that you can buy to make sure, but as long as 2 adults can talk comfortably over the white noise, it should be good. And it's also really good to choose white noise that doesn't loop a short amount of tracks, because sensitive sleepers will sense the pause and it can wake them up. So there's lots of great white noise machines out there.
That's. I feel like with our first, we tried to be almost as loud as possible, and she's a really deep sleeper now, which is very interesting, right? That's a sample size of 1 in the study, but our younger daughter right now is definitely not as lighter as of now, but. When our older daughter sleeps in the same room as the baby, she won't get woken up by the screams in the middle of the night.
And that's conditioning too, in some ways, right?
Yeah.
Because I do the same thing with my twins. One of them can be screaming her face off, and the other one is sound asleep or falls asleep to the scream. It's crazy, but they do it. They manage, and it's good because they're not going to get their own rooms.
Nope.
No. So you're making sure the temperature is right. You're making sure they're sleeping in a dark space for as long as possible. You've got the white noise to buffer out, the random dogs barking or street traffic or whatever it is. We're in whatever location you live. And then you want to make sure that you're putting them to sleep in the same places. And I know this is really tricky when you've got newborns, because a lot of them, up till 3 months, they need a lot of help, some of them. And there's a lot of baby wearing, and that's totally cool, as long as you're helping them sleep safely when they're really young. But you really want to make sure that as much as possible, they sleep in the same space. And that will really help you, if they're napping in their room. So you're now in your office or your temporary office set up at the kitchen table or whatever it looks like right now, but they nap in their room. And now you've got at least an hour or a couple hours, depending on how long they nap, to get things done without being interrupted. So same place, the same thing. It's a signal that this is where sleep happens. So this is where I'll go to sleep, and then I play elsewhere, not in my room.
Yeah, that's it's definitely good to set those boundaries up, those ideas. When you're moving around a lot, though, like let's say folks who maybe they have 2 different homes, or they've got if you have a couple that split, that the kids are going side to side, setting some of those. Are there any kind of tips to make it similar enough, or comfort? In some way, maybe. I mean, that could be having the same blankie or something along those lines, right?
The comfort object will be really helpful in that situation for your older babies, or your toddlers. Babies, though, the sleep sack works as their blankie, so that's a cue that sleep is there. You could use the same pack and play. If they're young enough and they're able to nap in the pack and play, that can go from spot to spot wherever you need them to sleep. And then also making sure, like, it can be enough that they're in a space that it's dark and that, you know, they've got the white noise. Those two in combination with the sleep sack can be enough to let them know that this is where sleep is happening. When I have clients start daycare or day home, it's the same thing. Bring your comfort object or your sleep sack. Try as best as you can to get daycare on board with it being dark and the white noise. Sometimes it's beyond our control. Our kids are pretty resilient though, and that, you know, they learn quickly. This is what happens at home. Yeah. This is what it looks like at daycare. This is what it looks like at dad's or mom's or grandma or grandpa's. Or I've got lots of clients who, you know, during the week end up in various places being looked after, and they're pretty resilient. And as long as it's routine, they will get used to it. Yeah.
So setting the routine really is the big key there.
Yes.
That's huge.
Yes, and that, you know, that's the next step in the sleep basics, is making sure that you have a routine. And, you know, nighttime routine, you know, this is, you have a lot of parents, you're struggling. Little ones don't want to go to bed. You're fighting for a couple hours. It takes them forever to go to sleep. Now you're missing out on time to finish cleaning up from dinner, get back to the emails, all that stuff. You want to make sure you have a really concise routine. So, you know, bedtime should really only be 20 to 30 minutes. I don't count baths in there, mostly because I've got 3 girls and I would be lucky to get them all bathed and into bed in 20 minutes. There's just no way. So I count bath as a separate thing. I just can't do it.
That's pre-bedtime routine. The pre-bedtime routine.
That's exactly it, right? You eat dinner, it's bath night, so we bathe, and then it's routine. So you want to keep it like 20 to 30 minutes for them, because if you drag it out too long, then they might catch a second wind, and then all of a sudden you're done for. There's nothing worse than a toddler who's got a second wind.
That's it. You're in trouble. Don't let them catch that second wind. I know that, like, it's dangerous when you get that second wind. You're like, well, I know I shouldn't be going to sleep to get that extra few hours, but now I'm in trouble because it's the same thing. It's great.
Yeah, I do it every night, so I'm the worst. I really need to practice what I preach.
But it's super hard right now because we're like running a million miles an hour, and then you get the kiss to bed. I know personally, like I'll be reading my daughter stories at night, and I'm like starting to doze off. She'll like give me the nudge, being like, "Hey, stop! keep reading. What are you doing?" And then you get up and you start to do all like the household chores and clean up, and then you catch that second wind, and it's like, oh, I know I was probably already ready to go to sleep at 8 o'clock. now it's 10 or 11 or 12, and we're finally getting to bed, which is another problem.
That's exactly it. And maintain, like, the routine isn't going to mean that you're not going to stop dozing when you put your oldest to bed. I do it too sometimes. All of a sudden I'm like, wow, that was a 10-minute power nap.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to sleep tonight, I guess.
Yeah.
But your routine at least it allows you as parents to kind of like to move through a process with intent and know that it's coming to an end. And it's important for kids to get that routine, the same consistent things happening before every bedtime, before every nap time, so that they get those cues and they just know it. And this leads into a little bit of parenting in general, and that our kids need clear expectations of what to expect so they can feel comfortable and safe and know that they don't need to resist, because this is just the way it is. It's comfortable. It's a happy time. Bedtime and nap time routines should be happy. They shouldn't be stressful, because when they're happy and you've got a beginning and an end, you can both enjoy each other, and then they go to bed, and then you go do what you need to do.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice definitely to set those boundaries and say, if it's story time, that you can be fully focused on that. Turn off the phone, turn off the emails, and enjoy that time as a really good connection point. Because there's plenty of other stressful times during the day, and you can make it one less stressful time and more of a fun one, and hopefully, not too exhausting.
Yeah, and our little ones, our toddlers and our school age kids really need that time to connect with us. I'll often see toddlers, school-age kids, their parents come to me because they can't get their little one down. They wake up multiple times at night, really early in the morning. And often it's just a matter of we don't have time to be fully present with them. And as soon as we can, even 10 minutes before bed can really make a difference for a lot of little ones. If you can find that time to connect, I'm guilty of it too. And I work from home, but I'm like, oh, I've got that pile of dishes, or I've got, all those emails to answer. But it's, you have to be deliberate about it. You have to say, no, this is bedtime. They need me now. Yeah. It's 10 hours for them. It's a big deal. For me, it's 10 hours. I got so many things to do, but we need to connect so that they go to sleep and they don't bug you in the middle of the night or early in the morning. It's worth it. It's worth it to love and connect with your little one and to get the sleep benefits out of it.
Yeah, no, that's great. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Oh, we did get a question coming. Why you keep going? I'm going to read this question as
okay, and then you let me know. Okay, so those are roughly the sleep basics. Yeah. In my workshop next week, I'll talk a lot more about what overtired and undertired little ones look like, because those are two things that can make or break good sleep for them.
Okay.
These are also things that are tricky because, especially if you work outside of the home and you have to pick up from daycare and get home and do dinner and bedtime, it can be tricky to get them down when they need to get down, when their bodies are ready. So I talk about this a lot more in depth in the workshop, which will happen next week. But just know that most of the time I see little ones who are overtired. So there's too much time between nap and bedtime. Little ones, even up to school age, like 6 years old, let's say, still need to go to bed pretty early, like a lot earlier than a lot of parents may realize. And I know early bedtime doesn't work for everyone. And some people run on a later schedule naturally, and that's okay as long as it works for your family.
Yeah.
But a lot of little ones need to go to bed really early.
Like 7.
Like
6:30.
My twins.
What's that?
They're 4.5 now. So backtrack 6 months ago, my 4-year-old twins went to bed at 6 o'clock at night. They were no longer napping. So if your little one is still napping, that changes bedtime. Yeah. But no longer napping, up at 7 in the morning, and then they were ready for bed at 6.
Wow, they slept all the way to 7. That's impressive. That's the wonders of having a sleep coach as a mom. That's like really it's good. I feel like I thought we were doing pretty good where we had 7 o'clock. Usually we're in bedtime mode, and then until somewhere between 5 and 7, like maybe we get lucky some days with the 7, but usually it's in the 6 o'clock range.
Yeah. You definitely don't want them to wake up before 6. If your little ones are waking up before 6, come to this Fais Dodo Sleepers group, and I will help you work on that, because nobody should be up before 6 o'clock in the morning.
All right, I agree with that. I like that thought. So we have one question that we'll take, and then we can sign off with all the more about your program and so it looks like we haven't heard too much of the session yet, but how, when, why should we switch the 3.25-year-old out of his crib? He doesn't try to escape and definitely still needs that restriction of freedom. But so then how do we know when it's time to switch? Anything to look for?
Yes. Oh, the dreaded crib to toddler bed or big bed transition. If he's not trying to sneak out, leave him in there as long as he'll stay.
Yeah.
That's the simplest way to go about it. You'll know it's time to pull him out when he wants to come out. He might try climbing it. So you do have to watch, because that is a safety issue. Or he might start talking about wanting a different kind of bed. Personally with my twins, one of them would still be in a crib right now at 4.5. She couldn't care less. Sleep is sleep, and that's all she needs. Mm-hmm. But I had the other one around 3 years old, start to, well, I want a bed like my big sister. I don't want my crib anymore. So when they can start communicating that's a good time to start talking to them about, okay, let's get you a big bed, and let's talk about what sleep needs to look like. Yeah. So when you do make the transition, make sure that they're a part of the process. So, pick out the bed together, pick out some new sheets, a pillow, something so that they can feel a part of the change, because it is a big change for them. And then also talk about sleep expectations. At 3.5, plenty old enough to start talking about how, when we go to sleep, we lay in bed, we're still, we rest our bodies, we close our eyes, we try to sleep so that we can, our bodies can grow, our brains can get smarter, all of the things that 3.5-year-olds love to hear.
Yep. Yeah, and I think below we got the comment that now he says, "Get me out of here" a lot. That's probably a good sign. I feel like you don't have to watch him anymore. He's ready to go. He's ready for the big kid bed.
Yeah.
I feel like that was around the same time that our 4-year-old also transited. Actually, she was a lot younger. She was probably closer to a little over 2.
2 years old is a tricky time because they're not quite ready for that responsibility of being able to be in a room by themselves without coming out of their room all the time. That brings a different set of issues if you've got one who challenges it. But I also see lots switch really young, like 16, 17, 18, 19 months. And that sometimes is really easy because they just don't even understand that they can have that kind of freedom. And they don't even challenge it at all.
Yeah. We did a double. We switched, and then I had to switch it back, and then so we had one of the convertible ones where you could change it around. And she wanted to sleep in her pack and play. And I was like, no, I'm just gonna put the crib back together. And then we switched back. So it probably was around 3 years old. Now that I'm thinking about it again. So you're right on. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking time. If there are other questions, folks, definitely comment below or reach out to Janelle and join her group. It's like such an awesome resource and so important for us all to have more sleep in our lives for so many reasons, including our sanity and general well-being and health. And I know from a PT standpoint, our recovery times improve so much when we are able to sleep. So as parents and kids, like everyone feels better when we get more sleep, even though it's super challenging and hard. So setting the appropriate boundaries and routines, which is really, really difficult. That if you need help with that, Janelle is a great resource. So definitely click the link. I'll update the description if it's not already linked up. But thank you again, and I appreciate your time and your positivity and your general life experience here. So thanks again, and we look forward to having you being in touch soon.
Thanks so much. Hope everybody has a great day.
All right. Okay. Take care, folks. And we have another session actually tonight, a little bit later on. So keep your eyes peeled for that if you haven't already seen the update. And we will see you all very soon. Have a good night or good afternoon, and wherever it is that you are right now. You could be coming in from all over the world. So we're middle afternoon, even though it looks really dark in here. All right. So long.